I have two questions that I'm just writing down, but maybe we can just start with Michael Munson came across us and was inspired enough to write this beautiful piece that sort of explains the moment we're living in, how the Mac plays a role into it, and why it's important that people should care. Because I think that centers around the main questions that I have about the article, but I just wanted to give Michael a chance to maybe describe how, you interviewed us, you kind of took the raw qualitative information that we had, and you managed to create this awesome piece that's covering a bunch of different things, awesome, disparate connections made creatively, but inspires us, to question things. How do you, when you have an interaction with people, how do you end up coming up with something like this? Like, what was your thought process when you're like, okay, there's these two guys, here's some ideas. How did it turn into this blog?
Well, I think I start with like, what is the moment that we're in, and what are some of the things that it's really hard when in the fragmented media world that we live in for everyone to have common experiences. So I think I tried to find like the lowest common denominators of what could get people to say like, okay, yeah, I get it, to make it more contextually relevant to as many people as possible. And I think when I go look back at the fact that you guys shared your interview podcast with me the first day that you met, and then kind of fast forwarding to the fact that we're like almost a year later, it really made it made it authentic, because the things that we talked about were talked about in your podcast. And I thought it was really interesting to be able to see how you've evolved, but also how you're still the same. I think that's really important, because that shows that what your values are, what you believe in, and that hasn't changed at all since then. So, and as far as bringing in other stuff, I think the bottom line for me is I'm seeing that the Mac is playing an important role, or it can play an important role in, I mean, I don't, this sound like too much, but in society. I mean, because the things that it's talking about and the thing it's advocating for have real world impact beyond just, I don't like the fact that my chocolate chip bag now has 10 ounces instead of 12. Like, that's like an individual example that pisses me off on a one day basis. But then you add all those things up, and what does it mean kind of in the bigger picture? And that's why the shittification video was so interesting to me, because it was speaking to kind of what you guys are bringing up. So, but aside from that, I mean, I've got a lot of experiences in marketing and advertising, so I've got a lot of sort of things to choose from as examples, like the Nutter Butter thing.
Yeah,
I know who David Ogilvy is. Like, I don't know how many people know who David Ogilvy is, but I've read his book. So, I mean, I know who he is. And it's all about brand. It's all about value proposition. It's all about having this thing, this big idea that the customer believes in. And then you watch the Nutter Butter video and you're like, big idea? Like this, like we're weird. Like, it's not about how good you taste anymore, like, so I question like the tactic that is going on. And I mean, I'm just someone that likes to question things in general, and make people think and challenge people to think. So I think I hope that answers your question in a satisfactory manner.
It does, and thank you. And you don't ever have to explain yourself here. You said that there's a lack of common experience. We're hard pressed to find those moments, but it seems like we're all being forced to have common moments through algorithms or recommendations, systems or something. And this this shittification is one of those common things that isn't necessarily based on an algorithm or something that we're exposed to, but something that we experience. And I think what you managed to hit on is that there's nihilism around the shittification. Most people don't care. You're saying like 10 to 12 ounces of chocolate chips. Like, who cares? Over time, we are encouraged to care less. And so I wonder, you know, in the way that you are describing shittification, maybe the reason why this is important for Mac to be here, for you to help expose this story, is that there is deep nihilism around why do I even care about any of this? And if people are feeling forced to care about something, they're not even going to care about it because, oh, you want me to care about this. What's your thoughts on like nihilism happening around these marketing things? Because of course we're in the weeds. We think this is important. We remember Ogilvy asking us, hey, if the consumer was your wife, would you treat her like this? You know, that was one of the things. And you're like, oh man, just talk to any marketer right now. Be like, you want to put your wife through this funnel? Do you? You know, but people are like, who cares, man? And other people who are in the funnel and they don't even aware that they're in a funnel, they're like, oh, who cares? It's all marketing anyway. Is there something about this nihilism around marketing and like we're all just in the market? Is that part of the common experience, or is that strong enough to create common ground, or just kind of riff on that?
The nihilism concept is definitely something that I don't think gets enough play, if you will, because if you look at the single issue of climate change and excessive carbon pollution in the atmosphere and what that's doing in terms of temperature rising on the planet and the implications of that, and then people kind of recoiling back and saying like, well, I can't really do anything about it, and sort of accepting it. I mean, to a degree, that is a version of nihilism. It's like maybe you aren't saying you want this, but you aren't doing anything to stop it. And if you're not doing anything to stop it, you're kind of accepting it. And in my book, that means you're embracing it. So,
well, I hate to jump in, but I'm just thinking of all the nonsense that marketers foist on people has created the nihilism that we fight against. You
could make that argument.
We have created the consumers that are over our nonsense.
So,
so,
you know, last week was AI Awareness Week, right?
Oh, I wasn't aware of it. Oh, God, thank God there's a week.
With DeepSeek and a new release of OpenAI and another one. And then I saw a bunch of YouTube videos about AI, and one of them introduced me to a version that was done by the Allen Institute, A2. And it was called, I think, Tulu 345B or something like that.
Great branding.
And I went to it, and they've got this thing called Playground where you can play with it. And I was just taking it through its paces. It's a chat bot, so I was asking it questions, and I asked it a bunch of questions. But one of the ones I started with was, and this was on the heels of getting ready to publish this story, and I was wanting to see if there was any validation that I could get from what I was doing. And so I put into the chatbot prompt, I said, can ethical marketing save democracy? And not only was it interesting because it came up with an answer, it also said, save is kind of a strong word, but it could definitely strengthen it. And here's why. And it gave me like 5 bullet points for why. And that was good, because what drives me and what I believe in is I'm a fierce believer in democracy. So I definitely was looking at that as a validation for what I'm thinking about in terms of the importance of the Marketing Accountability Council. And it kind of fueled my fire a little bit to like finish off the story in a way that I felt really good about. Like, it was, here I am having the Allen Institute AI validate I'm thinking about the importance of the Marketing Accountability Council, right? So that was just one thing that I did, but I got validation on some other things that I'm thinking about by that same AI chatbot, and which was kind of illuminating and alternately scary at the same time. But
so, yeah, I mean, something that you're doing is a practice that more people should do. Is all the AI experience that I'm having is it needs to really center on what is concerning to you. Like, I think people are like, I'm going to use, like marketers in specific, they're like, I'm going to use AI and then I'm going to find the answer. But what you're doing is validating thinking and saying, what am I missing? What are things that I haven't thought of? And no one is using AI for that. They're using it to get the sure path. They're using it to get there quicker. But the truth is that I think the way you're exhibiting your use of this thing is key to the Marketing Accountability Council. Is like, well, if you do come up with these things, are you accountable for the steps that got you here?
And if I might, if I may add to that, the fact that you're coming up with these answers that you're coming up with is a reflection of the training of the AI. So meaning the AI has been trained by things that have been written by people that have been scoured, right? So if it's able to come up with something, it's not just a brain, it's a corpus of information that is validating that maybe under the surface, you know, and that's what I feel about our movement. I feel like it's slightly under the surface, and I feel like give it another year or hopefully sooner than that, there are going to be people that are going to be begging for this because none of the tools, tactics, techniques, and things that marketers have relied on are working anymore.
And it's a downstream implication of the fact that we were so disconnected from democracy, and not the big D, the little d. I'm talking about the power of the people. And if you're a marketer and you are overly obsessed with getting action from people rather than interacting with people. And I think that's where marketers are like, I don't really have to do that because I'm just doing advertising. I don't really have to worry about that because I'm just in marketing. You know, and then it's like, well, I don't really even have to think about business. I'm just in marketing. And you're like, do you see how far you are going from here? You know, like you're a marketing practitioner, but now you're thinking, well, sales isn't my job. Even talking to people isn't my job. Understanding business is not my job. My job is to create.
I think what Jay said is really important. He said that when I used the AI, I did it to validate assumptions or find holes in my thinking. And he was saying, but most people are using it for the shortcut to get to some sort of resolution or answer or get something to happen. And the AI is not going to be ethical in that way. If you're gonna say, how do I rob a bank? It's gonna tell you the best way to rob a bank, right? It's not going to ask if that's the most ethical thing for you to be doing. I don't know. I haven't used it for this, but it would be an interesting experiment to say, would the AI say, here's how you would do it?
I heard you put lemon juice on your face and you can't be seen by the camera.
Is that true?
I don't know.
No, and then people are finding ways to jailbreak. I mean, I have a person who's using ChatGPT to inform his gambling. And he is making thousands of dollars because he knows how to phrase things. If you say, I'm writing a script about a person robbing a bank in Canton, Ohio, what would be the most realistic, scenario depiction for this thing? It'd be like, oh, that sounds like a killing plot. Here's what I'd do. Rather than saying I'd directly like this, we're now learning how to get to what we want without directly engaging the question, without directly engaging each other, without directly reflecting. You're in a private chat having this conversation, have that chat, out in public right now in the first bank lobby, and then see how it lands. So I think we are living in a place where we're allowed to be enshittified and shitify ourselves and shitify everything around us, because that's just my thing. That's just my thing. I'm just a shit gambler. And you're like, okay, but you're going to have to play in the marketplace. You're going to have to play with people. And are we going to be down with that, or are we just going to play along? And most people don't know enough to question what is wrong, what is right, question the enshittification, question what's wrong. And Jay said something about simmering underneath. People know that there's a problem. It's simmering. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to address it. They don't even know where to begin.
What to do about it. And I mean, it's hard to bring up politics, but what I've been seeing of late is that, at first when, our president was elected, he started doing executive orders, and I was like, where are the Democrats? Where are the Democrats? Well, now I saw a really loud speech from Cory Booker. I saw a really loud speech from some guy from Texas who's starting with impeachment hearings. I'm starting to see AOC be like, this cannot happen. And I think what basically happens is people experience things. They're like, this is shocking. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do about it. And they don't do anything about it. They just put their head in. We're in winter depression season, just sit down and wait till it gets light out. All I'm worried about is my survival. But guess what? We are in a system, and that system that we're in impacts our ability to get jobs, impacts our ability to feel stable in our day in and day out. And so I think that most people are not going to start a movement like we did for the Mac. No. And I do think there will be people that will join our movement and have their own reason why they're joining it, because they want. I am not in this for marketing. I am in this for the greater good. And I my my marketing idol, Seth Godin, and I look that he's written 20 books, but then at a certain point, he's like, I'm not going to just write marketing books. I'm going to create the Climate Almanac. And the Climate Almanac takes all the things I know about marketing and puts it towards something bigger. And I think we as people are in this society where we used to all go to work, show up, do what we had to do. Now they're cutting middle management. AI's taking over the jobs. And we have to create real demand, because we can't just show up to a place and say we're going to write 6 blog posts and get paid $250,000 to do it. We actually have to walk the walk and talk.
Well, I mean, I think to what you're saying, Jay, I think like you can be your own activist for change. It's like when people would say like, oh, my vote doesn't matter, so I'm not going to vote. When you go to the store and you see that price for a product that is like, okay, this has gone up 40% in 2 weeks. What the hell's going on here? Like, you don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no gun to your head saying that you need to buy it. And the way the markets work is people say no.
Right.
That's the price. Just because, I mean, you guys are thinking weird because I have like this chocolate chip obsession, but I make a brownie recipe that uses chocolate chips.
I learn something about you every day.
Yep.
What's that?
We're dropping news. We're dropping news.
And I go to I've been going to Whole Foods and using the Guitar brand of chips. And for the longest time, the chips were $5.49. Then in December, I was paying attention to this because this was like when we're getting all this like tariff talk and stuff. I didn't know like how it's going to impact anything yet.
Impact your brownies.
And so one day I went in from 1 week to the next. The price went from $5.49 to $6.49. Like that's a 20% increase in a week, right? Well, a week later, it was $6.69. Obviously not as big a jump, but still, do you think I've bought those chips since? No, I haven't.
But you know that Amazon is probably doing something with the numbers and their pricing, and it's probably connected with their POS system, which is connected with what people are ordering, which is connected with the pulse of demand. Do you believe that?
I talked to a music repair shop in Detroit, and he was saying that Amazon's dynamic pricing was messing his whole thing up, and he was trying to stay competitive with the prices and matching. And then at one point he said, I'm not even doing that. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm setting it as it is. And
that's another issue for the Mac is,
oh my God.
Yeah, dynamic pricing in certain circumstances it works, like when you're selling commodities, but when it's things that people are kind of relying on, they want some stability, they want to be able to plan their budgets, what have you. Like, stability is nice. And like I said in my story about decreasing portion sizes but keeping the price the same, it's like I'd rather know that my portion size is going to stay the same than my price is going to go up. And I'd rather be told, hey, tell me why the price has to go up on your packaging. Tell me. I'm not going to necessarily stop buying because the price went up, but I'm going to stop buying if you dicking me around, making me think you're trying to pull some wool over my eyes, think that it's the same product at the same price. No, it's not.
There are two approaches of this. I mean, so one is the Kellogg's approach, where people went in and they're like, I'm pissed off. Kellogg's has added lots of crappy ingredients to my cereal. It's shrinking. The price is going up. And the CEO said, you should have cereal for breakfast. That happened about a year ago or more.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then Kellogg's comes out with the big ad with the big cock going around it's a
chicken. It's a male chicken. Okay, keep going.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. The big chicken is going. That's clip worthy. The big chicken is going around, and their insight for the ad was Kellogg's has the letters OG in it, and that means original. Some insight. I mean, really. I mean, and you know, the thing is creative, but it's a distraction. The big chicken is a distraction. Then you look, and I wrote about this today. You look at Starbucks. 6 months ago, you know, they brought Brian on as the CEO, and you know, he was the CEO at Chipotle. And when Chipotle had a controversy about portion size, speaking of portion size,
that.
He went in and he looked at the operations, and he actually uncovered things that actually truthfully said that there's something to what the customers are saying. There were things that management did not know about that he discovered when he went in and investigated it. And then he went online in the platform that the people are on, and he shut that up. And Chipotle hasn't had a problem with that since. And he was so effective at doing that he got hired by Starbucks. And now 6 months after he's hired by Starbucks, we are seeing the truth come out, which is basically we fucked up Starbucks. We lost touch of who we were, and we're making significant changes. One, we've talked to all these people, all these stakeholders, and they want this, and this. Two, our labor staff is really upset about all the ingredients and how long it takes. And our customers are upset about that. So they're investing in better machinery to help their teams. And he said you can't order more than 12 things on the app. No one's going to have a problem with that. You know, because if people order 500 things on the app, then you go into the store and you're waiting online and you see no one in the store and you're like, why are they waiting?
That's happened multiple times to me where I'm waiting. No one's in line, but I'm waiting for invisible people.
Right, yeah. Exactly. And so he was honest with his stakeholders. He was honest with the consumers. And they're coming out with a relaunch of Starbucks during the Super Bowl this weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing that and seeing what they say. And they're giving free coffee to the hungover people on the Monday after the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a good way to make a splash, don't you think?
Well, and what you outlined right there is interesting because it comes from an older business mentality, is that you confront the harsh facts and you are radically transparent and candid about these things. I mean, I just talked to a CEO that's, I'm connected with, and he was saying that one of the things that he had to overcome was being protective of the staff, of, the process and stuff. And actually, this goes in line. A lot of these people aren't bad. They're not bad people. They're not evil people. They're making good calls, what they think are good calls. But what it ends up doing is creating a total veil of secrecy upon which you can make things right or not, or pay attention. Whereas, the Chipotle thing was like, we're getting out in front. I'm going to tell you that there's problems. I'm going to admit to them too. No one would do that now because we want exceptionalism rather than excellence. No one wants to work to become excellent. They want to just get straight to exceptionalism. And that is hiding a bunch of dead bodies on the mountain of exceptionalism, because you didn't get to the top and you didn't kill somebody. But what I wanted to say and ask you, Michael, the part at the end of your piece where you compare the top 10 countries on the Fortune 500 list, from the ones that were in 1955 to the ones 70 years later who are in the top 10 spots. I wanted you to kind of like think about this older business mindset that is almost evaporating now, because no one wants to take accountability. No one wants to get ahead of things. No one wants to admit that they're flawed and that they can work on things and improve. I want you to kind of talk about the types of companies that were there in the 50s and the types of companies that are here now, and what's that juxtaposition mean to you when you got it out? Because it's really stark, and it was really eye-opening for me.
Well, I mean, I think you start with technology as the first, information technology mainly, as the main impetus for the evolution of the list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know one of the brands that off the top of my head that stands out that was on the original top 10 of the first Fortune 500 was Armor. And do you know what Armor is?
Mm-mm.
Or was? It's the meat packing company. And they were, I think, number 7 on the list.
That's right.
And so, where's meat packing now? I mean,
well, we have the meat packing district in New York.
I don't have the list handy, but I'm sure there's a meat packing agribusiness like Cargill or something like that on that list somewhere. But if you just look at like kind of the way the Fortune 500 list works, it's revenue. That's why Walmart is on top. It's Apple is a more valuable company, but Walmart's on top because it generates more revenue. Their profit margins are like that compared to Apple's that are like, so, but that explains it, right? I mean, the technology aspect of it, I mean, if we were to take right now, I'm just going to make this another AI point. Yeah. If we were to say there's a company that had had the market cornered on AI, and it had this patented technology that wasn't open source like it is now, and only it had it. I saw someone ask the OpenAI deep research system.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
What percentage of jobs will be eliminated by AI by 2030, which is only 5 years away, right?
Right.
And it came back and it said, "What sector do you mean?" And the guy said, "All sectors." Came back, did a 11,000 word report with citations and quotes and graphs in 2 minutes. And this is one of the things that a paralegal might spend their time doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So say a paralegal, I don't know exactly what they get paid, but say $80,000 a year. You could pay $200 a month to use that deep research OpenAI. Are you paying $80,000 when you could pay 200? Probably not. So
Probably not.
if you just look at the profit margin between a company, if a company had the ability, now granted, $200 is probably not what the cost is, but it's going to be a lot less than $80,000 a year when you add it up.
Mm-hmm.
So say it's 10 times that. Say it's $2,000. Still, that's a lot of savings, and all that profit going to that technology company, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would top the Fortune 500 in no time flat.
Easily, right? But you're outlining a thing. No one has a moat. No one has a product. Like the business model for OpenAI is screwed. Like they wasted $5 billion last year, just burned it up, and everyone was like, the older mentality is going to come home to roost, and it's because we've allowed these people to do those things. And what we need
I was
to do.
I was just talking with a friend yesterday
who
told me all she's doing is figuring out ways that she can make money that doesn't rely on technology.
Oh, that's smart.
And so we're talking about like to circle back to the beginning of the conversation, talking about nihilism and denialism, maybe. Like, I don't want to accept it. It's like it's too harsh of a truth for me to really just deal with.
Sure.
And you take that 18% number. I mean, what happens? Seriously, 18% of jobs don't exist that exist today. 18%. I mean, that is staggering. And so, like, to if you're not paying attention to the concepts and the ideas and the manipulation tactics and all the ways that have sort of nickel and dime you to death to be like I'm just a prisoner here. I'm just I don't have any ability to respond. You're going to be taken advantage of, and you're going to fail as a person. I mean, if you look at it as sort of survival of the fittest, you will fail. You're not fit enough. You're not caring is ultimately. You're not caring. You think like, oh, I don't have the ability to deal with it. Ultimately, you're not caring is going to end you.
And it only ends up creating more non-caring. Like that's the only generational evolution of not caring is you will create more not caring downstream.
And when you have when you're dealing with the concept of honesty and respect, that builds empathy. And if you're in a society with all these people being displaced, right? And you don't think we need to do something to take care of our people, it's going to fall apart.
I mean, I can't help but think about this idea that my dad always talks about what it was like growing up in Teaneck, New Jersey in the 60s. And just the simple way it was, and people worked hard. They had a good family time. Everyone had food on their tables, and things were good. And it's just like you went in the bank, and the bank would say, "Hi, Mr. Mandel," and they would actually know who you are. Try and go in the bank today, and even if you've seen the teller every week, they're still going to put you through the ringer because of the fact that people are committing fraud, which and people are begging, borrowing, and stealing because there isn't as much abundance as there was back in the day. And so now we're in an every person for themselves sort of society where it's a lot more difficult for people to band together and do stuff like that. That's why this movement is so important, because it's like, I found in both of you and the other people in this group, a bunch of people that actually have a lot of talent, a lot of people that have a perspective that doesn't rely on the old school thinking, which, by the way, yes, if you lived through the 60s, 70s, like my father, and saw what it was like back then, and you had different sort of mindsets of like a boomer mindset versus a millennial or whatever mindset, they're totally different. And they were trained in these hierarchical organizations about, command and chain of command and respect. Going forward in this day and age, I'm teaching students that are in their 20s. They have a totally different mindset about what they can say, what they can't say, how they can say it, which doesn't align with the hierarchy.
Well, I mean, Marketing Accountability Council is supposed to be first and foremost about a code of values, right? So when you talk about the distinction between sort of hierarchical versus flat organizations, in a hierarchical organization, you are going to basically hire people based on skills, like hard skills. Like your ability to write, your ability to do accounting, spreadsheets, like
all that
stuff. In a flat organization, you rely on people's values. And so what you do is you instill values in them. And then that whatever they're faced with, when they're making decisions, they always reference back to what are the values of the business and what do we believe in, and that informs your decision making. So you don't need to have the top down sort of hierarchical structure.
Everyone's empowered. We have
exactly
a baseline of skills and a code of ethics and conduct that motivates people a hell of a lot more than some manager standing over them saying, "Where's your TPS report?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, here's the problem. I think everybody has it all messed up because hierarchy is based on skills. That's what you said, right? And flatten org is about values, right? What if people lack the value to see that they have no fucking skill and that they're making everything up, and then that informs their values, and then that informs the skills that they want to do, and that informs their values, and that informs the skills. So I'm actually thinking, I don't have to be an expert. Experts are dead. I can do this deep research thing. 18% of you fools are going to be gone. I'm going to be the one in charge. And I have no fucking values because I have no skills that I can actually depend on. And all I do is manage expectations and perceptions rather than working on making something with my own damn hands.
Well,
I'm thinking most
ahead.
of these motherfuckers don't have their hands in the trenches, so they have no idea what real work is. They have no idea how to interface with actually action. And so they're just having hot takes, and then that informs their values, and then those informs the skills that they choose to not entrench inside their head just to participate in a performative way. And if somebody's doing performative tasks or skills, whatever, I don't care. It looks good. My values now are changing. The way I value people has changed. I don't value people. I value output.
Well, Jacob, this brings us right back to the Center for Humane Technologies training about the atomization of content and how the lack of context, how people are looking at content like just the part where President Biden slipped or whatever. And he slipped a bunch. Okay, I understand that. But people are consuming content that shows one fraction of the actual thing, the thing that is the most quote unquote interesting.
That's right.
And that's how they're making their decisions. There are plenty of people that I talk to, educated, smart people that look at TikTok or Facebook, Instagram as their primary news source. They're not reading the New York Times article that explores all the details and all the background. They're just looking at, Trump said this, someone said that, someone said this, or someone has a hot take on a particular issue that is biased based on their point of view. So I think what's happening is it's a circle. I mean, people are consuming, and it actually has to do with the creator economy and the consumption economy. Everyone, including us right now, are consuming and creating, right? And so
with the downstream hope that we will influence.
Not
that we will do anything, I just influence something. Did you blow on it? Did you put your touch on it? No one's trying to do anything. They're just trying to like touch the cow as it goes by. And they're like, ha ha, I made that.
It's easier for us to take AI-based technology to cut this thing up, publish this thing, But the more and more people do this, the more and more information is out there in the world, the more specific the group of people is. So that's why in the Mac, like, I am satisfied with our slow and steady growth, because the people that are joining us are people that are in it with us. It's not 50,000 people that just raise their hand and then never read an email. Like, the people that actually subscribe to us read our stuff, and they're interested in it. And I think that we need to do a reset in our society about our expectations. This goes big, your delusion series, the delusion of growth marketing, the delusion of branding. I'm a guy that's called your brand coach. And when I read your article, I'm like, yeah, I need to rethink what branding is.
Sorry.
But it's true. It's true. And so, what I'm seeing is that we have been a society that has expected that you don't put any skin in the game. You might hit big. You might survive. That was when the money was flowing. Money isn't flowing. We have a lot of talented people that have a lot of great things to say that feel misguided and misplaced.
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so that's why it's great to have Michael finding a way to like, this is so tangled and it's so messed up. And one of the feedback that we got from the Marketing Accountability Council is like, where are you going to start? How are you ever going to start? And how are you going to not piss people off? And it's just like, you like it or lump it, that deep research that you commented, it could be true, could be not. There is going to be disruption. Is it 18% of the entire workforce? I don't know, but you better start thinking that might be the case. And if you can't drill deep into your root structure and find out what makes you important and makes your ecosystem stronger, you're going to get blown over. I mean, that's just the truth. And it isn't going to become I'm just going with the river. I'm just going with because the house always wins,
So if you look at what the Mac is all about in terms of values and accountability and sustainability and marketing, you can't have the structure that you need to rely on if the people aren't trained to expect those things. Right? I mean, you can say, like, again, it's not my thing, or I go back to voting. You can say, like, my vote's not going to matter. Okay, well, what if everyone thinks that way and they let people take advantage of them because they think like it doesn't matter? Well, pretty soon you're in a cage. You don't have freedom anymore. You've pissed it away by your ignorance. Your inability to recognize that small things add up to big things. And when I go and I see, I'm sorry, I know you guys think I'm crazy, but when I see the package size decrease and the price stay the same, I see the price increase without an explanation excessively, it breaks trust. And if you aren't willing to show that trust is broken, you're giving people permission to do it again. So if they took it one step the first time, they're going to take it 2 steps the next time. I mean, you have to at a certain point, you have to say, I have to stand up for myself. I have to push back. I have to give up something that is maybe a little bit that makes me gives me my max comfort to start standing up for yourself. Because if every time, like your cable bill goes up, if you pay it every time, it's going to keep on going up. Like you got to give up something. You got, and this doesn't have anything to do with whether you can afford it or not. This is just the principle.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm thinking, like, we talk about use cases in marketing. I'm thinking the whole of it is an abuse case. They're trying to figure out how far they can get. How far can I push it? They're not really even asking about these reports. The reports, the dashboard? Well, we worked really hard to do that. They don't even care. They're not even asking questions. Well, we can put whatever we want in there. The clients aren't asking about make goods on ads that were dropped. If you're in TV or radio, you'll be screwed if you don't make good. You will be screwed. You better make good. There's no make goods in digital advertising. None.
So I know that marketing and advertising are not exactly the same thing, but for the sake of illustration, we have the Super Bowl, which is the Super Bowl of advertising, right?
So true.
This weekend. There are going to be ads that people are asked about, and they're going to give an opinion on the ad, like thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. No one's going to be asked, what is your experience with that brand or that product? Have you had one yet? Are you saying that the ad is great and you think the product is shit? See what I'm saying?
Yeah, do you remember Coinbase two Super Bowls ago?
What's that?
2 Super Bowls ago, that Coinbase dropped like a small 5-second ad, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's genius! How did they do this? You know, they hacked into the thing. We don't have to spend millions of dollars to get attention. We're awesome. It's awesome." 1 year later, Coinbase crashes because it's made on a false promise. Did anybody think, are we good on crypto, or are we just talking about the ad and how it was kind of cool? And we can talk about these things. I would love to have these conversations, but look in the mirror, ask yourself about your lived experience, and tell me if it jives with this thing, because I can tell you it does not. You know,
so the marketers will get credit for creating this ad that gets great acclaim, right? But do people like the brand? Do they like the product? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it more important to be liked, or is it more important for people to respect you, right? Like, there's a difference between the two.
And that comes back to this idea of protection, is that I'm not going to be frank and straight with people. I'm going to just kind of protect them from the truth. And I think marketers have been protected. And we've been in our things, and we're inside our baseballs. We're talking about our things. You're in your programmatic funnel, your tofu, your mofu, your bofu. No experience in the consumer's life registers at all with how we're measuring things, how we're demanding things happen in a professional capacity. We're failing to see the personal implications and its impact on society. So I don't think it's too much to say democracy and advertising and marketing and marketplaces and people, these are all the same things. And if you fail to see your important role or necessary function of saying, I'm going to stand up and say something, because the next time you try and do this, it's going to be a little harder. That's all I want. You're going to try and do it. Everybody's going to try and screw us over again. But there's going to be one person who's loudly ringing a cowbell, running through the meat market being like, this shit is poison. And then Upton Sinclair is known as that person who came in and was like, and talk about the meatpacking industry. That probably benefited from Upton Sinclair calling them out on these dangerous things that were killing people. And then all of a sudden, meatpacking, 1955, we reached our moment. Thank God Upton Sinclair called us out, because now we're accountable for the things we're doing. We're doing it right. We're making more money than ever.
It's hard to imagine that Armour would have been number 7 if it was killing people, right?
Yes. And right now you can look at the list as 2025 and you're like, okay, Google just said that they would use their AI for weapons. Okay. Amazon's number 2. Are they known for great employee? No, they'll shut down your union. United Healthcare Group. What happened to that CEO? I'm not saying shit is right or good, but I'm saying, hello, look at this.
Well, I mean, I think what it comes back to is something we said earlier, which is there are people like us, the Upton Sinclairs of the world, that will stand on the platform and write about it, talk about it, share about it, this and that. Not everyone's going to do that, but I have a feeling that a lot of people, if you just ask the question, how do you feel about streaming media right now? How do you feel about the fact that you have Netflix, Paramount Plus, this, that, the other thing, which is very anti-consumer? They'd be like, yeah, that's annoying. Like there's no one that's going to say, wow, I love the condition of the marketplace for this stuff. So, I mean, so there's sort of like active advocacy and passive advocacy. And I think that as advertisers, maybe that's what we're after, right? Marketers, why don't we, you don't create a movement. This is what Seth Godin says. He says, you insert yourself in a meaningful way in something that people are already thinking about or talking about. Right. So if we could just find the people that are like, you look at their face in the grocery store and they're like, what the hell? I'm in the grocery store all the time and I hear people just saying, oh my God, I didn't expect this to be that much. Like those are all people that are experiencing what we're talking about right now. But they're not again, we have to figure out the way to allow people to meaningfully participate without just like pushing a button. Not just signing a petition. It's like, I guess it's with your advocacy. Are you going to show up and buy, or are you going to ignore your feelings and say, I'm just going to go because it's convenient to me?
And let me connect it with voting. Very interesting, because what you're saying is like, people don't vote because they don't know how things impact them. They don't know why it would impact them. So then they're just kind of taking the party line and saying, it doesn't even matter. You're not even aware of how it could matter. You don't even know what's going on in your world. And so self-reflection is this gift that we can give ourselves and each other. And all you have to do is ask the question, does this make sense? And if you do that enough, you'll find some really meaty stuff that you can make meaningful improvements on. But if you just accept it as senseless, as just like politics is theater, like all they do is talk, you miss the fact that policy impacts you at a local level personally at the store. And so it's like we've somehow decoupled from our lives and lived experiences. And we're saying, well, I need to make a living. Well, are you alive? Are you in life right now? Because all of you are making a living, but this cost of living, quality of living sucks. So what the hell happened? In our pursuit to find a life, we've been taking it away from each other and our future. So if you want to live and see tomorrow, you have to start making sense, touch some grass, be rough with yourself, and confront the brutal facts that you live. And then in a professional capacity, do what you can in your small little moment to change it. And if you don't do it, then okay, don't complain that shit sucks.
Boom. Mic drop.
That was good. That last minute was on point.
I'm fucking freestyling all this shit, but it's because I've been sitting with this, meeting with you, reading these things, experiencing conversations, bouncing ideas off each other, and then that inspires these things. But unless you expose yourself to this unplanned conversation, we had no plan, but we managed to come out with some cool stuff. That can happen writ large with your people, businesses, your personal relationships. It'll be fucking great. But people got to break out of it. We can do it. God damn it.
On that note, we talked for over an hour. And I think
I have stuff to do.
This always happens, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to cut this up. This is definitely an article that links to the other article. And let's see where we could take this. And there are definitely parts that we could broadcast.
The whole skill value thing fucking wrecked my head. I was like, oh, Jesus, like tangible skills, values. We've replaced skills with what we think are values, and they're not values. It's like a valuation of what our values are. And you're like, oh, it's like $20 for autonomy, you know, and you're like, no, democracy has a price tag. And you're like, no. But it's a crucial time, man. Dude, Mike, thank you so much for this piece. Let's find a way to do it, and then we'll promote it again. Oh, and then get on LinkedIn, because, bro, I know it sucks, but
but you got to keep up with, if it's just to keep up with us.
And if you're saying this shit, people need to see it and be like, oh, I'll hire this motherfucker. Is he on LinkedIn? No. Who is he? He lives under a bridge.
I kind of do. So my reason, so I gave you some reasons, Jay, and another one is I know my personality.
Oh, you'll probably go off on people.
And